Okay, so by now you should have read a little bit about half steps and whole steps in the textbook, and also about major scales, also in the textbook, and watched some of the videos, reviewed the quick online lesson, and also completed the major scale pretest. These are 5 short questions that just wanted to get a sense of where you are with understanding and applying some of these ideas. Okay, so now that we're in this worksheet, let's take a look at how you did. Okay, so also by now you should have printed out the worksheet and have tried to complete this on your own. If you haven't already, please do that first, and then take a look at this video to help correct some of the mistakes if you need to. Okay, so following the instructions on the first blank staff, the first note is a C. Draw the correct clef that's needed. So this is a C. Okay, the correct staff here, sorry, the correct clef here is a bass clef. Okay, remember all cows eat grass. Okay. Next, we're going to write either W or H. W for whole step, H for half step, on the boxes below to denote the interval between the notes of a major scale. Complete the scale by using whole notes and using all 7 letters of the musical alphabet. Okay, so as you hopefully remember by now, the pattern here is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Okay, again, the interval here describes the relationship between these 2 notes, and I use the word interval because that's the word we use to describe the distance between 2 notes. So a whole step is an example of an interval, so is a half step. Okay, so at this point, the next thing you need to do is just to write out all of the notes of the scale using all of the letters of the musical alphabet. Okay, that's the very next thing you need to do. If we're doing a C major scale, you're just writing all the notes from C to C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay. Next, play the notes of the C major scale on a piano or on one of the virtual pianos. Okay. As a reminder, now that we're starting to talk about scales, it's very imperative that you always refer to some kind of piano, either a piano chart or a picture of a piano, or better yet, the virtual piano, or best is a piano keyboard that you have. Okay, so you can always, at the very least, calculate the half steps and whole steps, but also hear what it sounds like. Okay, so once you hear that, this is an example of a C major scale. It has no sharps or flats, okay? And the pattern that results from lining up the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C will result in whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That is to say, all the notes here from one to the next are all whole steps except for E and F. Okay, that's a half step, and then B to C, also a half step. And we've talked about that when we talked about naming notes. Okay, remember that these 2 pairs of notes, E and F, are half step apart, and B and C are also a half step apart. Okay, next we're going to start writing this scale starting on G. I'm asking you to figure out what is the clef that's needed here. Okay, so if this is a G, of course the clef is a treble clef. So you're going to write a treble clef. Okay, every good boy does fine, for example. Next, we're going to just repeat the pattern of whole steps and half steps. So you have whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And next, you're going to then write out all of the notes of the musical alphabet one after another. That's basically half of the answer to what the scale is. Okay. So these are all the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. For scales, remember they have to use every letter of the musical alphabet one after another. Okay, this comes into play because remember there are notes that have 2 names, right? We call them enharmonics. So in order to figure out which letter name we're going to use for a certain note, we have to figure out where in the musical alphabet it falls. Okay, so G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, next we're going to compare each note. Okay, as I've done in the previous videos that you have watched, compare each note and see whether each pair of notes and see whether they are indeed a whole step or half step, which is according to the pattern that we need. So for example, from G to A, if you go to the piano, you'll find that this is a whole step because there's a black key in between, so the A is correct. A to B is also a whole step. B to C we know from before. B to C here in the C major scale, right, is already a half step. So B to C is also a half step, and that's done. I use check marks again to remind me like which ones I've already checked, because in this case I'm only checking this note. If I need to add sharp or flat, I'm only changing this and not changing this. Okay, if I start changing this note, then the rest of the pattern would not work. Okay. So C to D is also a whole step, so that's done. D to E is a whole step. E to F at the moment is a half step. Remember, that's one of the pairs of notes, the white keys that are next to each other, they're a half step apart. So here, since this is a half step and we do need a whole step, what I'm going to do is raise this F to an F sharp, and thereby creating a whole step between E and F sharp. And you notice that if I did that, F sharp to G automatically creates a half step, so that's also done. So this is the scale, G major scale, okay, and it has one sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And I will go over the rest of the answers, okay, on the second part of the sheet, okay. And so, for example, in D major, okay, see if I can focus a little bit more here. Good. In D major, okay, so this is supposed to be a D, so this is going to be bass clef, right? And the notes here, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, right? And of course, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. If you started comparing all of the intervals to see whether they conform to the interval that you need, for example, between D and E should be a whole step, you'll find that you'll need to add two sharps. You need to add F sharp and then also C sharp, okay? Next, A major, this is an A, so this will need a treble clef. And we're going to write all the notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. So whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. If you did this, again, you will need to add some sharps. You'll find that you'll need to add a C sharp, F sharp, and G sharp, a total of 3 sharps. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. F major, if this is an F, this needs to be a treble clef. It's the only clef that it would fit as an F. Remember F-A-C-E, right? Next, you're going to write out all the notes of the scale here, of the musical alphabet, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay? And of course, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And if you did this, you'll notice that you'll need to add one accidental, which is a B flat, right? In order to make A to B flat and half step, right? In turn, it will also make B flat to C now a whole step, okay? Please, again, refer to the piano keyboard to verify this. 2 more, B flat major, we start with a B flat that would need a bass clef. Then we start by writing all of the letters of the alphabet here. And also whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. If you did that, you will see that you'll need to add a E flat, okay, in addition to the B flat. Notice that we start with B flat, we also need to end with B flat, okay? So this scale, B flat major, in fact has 2 flats, B flat and E flat. However, when we write it out from B flat to B flat, we're repeating the B flat an octave above, right? So when you see it, you're going to see 3 notes with flats. However, there are only 2 sort of unique flats that are in the B flat major scale. That is B flat, which is in the beginning and the end, and also E flat. Lastly, I have E flat major, okay? So if this is an E flat, this has to be a bass clef with 1 ledger line. I'm going to write out all the notes, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, I'm going to clean up the D a little bit. Okay. Also whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And if you did that, again, you'll realize that you need to add some flats. So you'll need to add an A flat, so that it's a half step between G and A flat. A B flat, so it's a whole step between A flat and B flat. Okay. And then also, of course, we repeat the E flat from the beginning. Okay. So you have E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. So E flat major scale has 3 flats: E flat, A flat, and B flat. Again, we repeat the E flat here from the beginning to end, but that doesn't add to the number of flats that's needed overall for the scale. Okay, so I hope you can verify your answers. If you had some of them that you need to adjust, please take a look and see what you did wrong and how you can improve with practice.